today, but here are the preliminary observations. It's important to keep these observations in mind. If you want to learn Ignatian discernment, if you want to make decision in an Ignatian way, these observations are very important. Number one, discernment of spirit, as Ignatius would love to call it, always involves choosing between goods. Choosing between goods. For example, you want to marry or you want to become a religious in the church. These two things are not bad. They are good things. It's good to marry and it's good to choose to become a priest or a religious in the church. Or we have other examples. For example, you may want to choose to become a policeman or a policewoman to serve this nation, and maybe with a deep desire to control corruption. Or you may want to work as a priest to serve God's people. Both of them are vocation of service. And any choice you make, you are serving God's people. Or you may want to choose to adopt a child, and you want that child to live with you. So you can train this child, or you may say, okay, instead of adopting a child, I'm going to pay school fees for children. These two options are not bad. So discernment is about goods like this. You have two things that are good, inherently good in themselves, and you want to make a choice. The preliminary observation number 2. Discernment for St. Ignatius of Loyola must take place within a context. And he calls that context a deep personal love for God. Deep personal love for God. Anybody who don't like God, he no go fit discern in the Ignatian sense. If you don't have regards for God, that means if you don't want to be a spiritual person, it will be difficult. It is your personal love, that context of relationship with God. So it is important to have relationship with God first, because that relationship becomes foundation for you to purify the decisions you are making. If you love God, you will not want to offend God. If you love God, you will want to seek the will of God. If you love God, you want to choose what is good and avoid what is evil. So that is the context. It will not happen if you don't love God. The third context or preliminary observation is that Ignatius understands our hearts differently. He believes that the human heart, which in some context, he will speak of the heart like the soul. He feels that there is a battle. There is a battle to win our heart. You know, where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. He believes that there is a battle, and the battle is between the evil one and between God. Between the evil one and God. They are fighting for our heart. They are fighting to become kings of our heart. Ignatius says this battle, this spiritual warfare is ongoing. It is the warfare between evil and good, between vice and virtues, and all this take place within our heart. For Ignatius, we have to take sides. If you are neither cold nor warm, you have no place. You have to take side. Who are we for and who are we against? So these are the preliminary observations. Ignatius will say these things should be assumed. They should be there. They should be there. If they are not there, we can't get into discernment. The decision is between goods. The decision is between goods. The one who decides or have a relationship with God. And the heart is the stage where that battle is taking place. Point number 2 I want to share is inner movement. Ignatius is a man of the inside. This evening, Chima begins by saying, use the hands of your mind to touch your head, to touch your belly, to touch your knees, to touch your feet. Ignatius is a man of the inside. And you see, I'm not talking about your physical hand. I'm talking about interior movement, inner steering. And it's not easy. We are not always conscious about this. There are movements we feel inside of us. There are movements you feel every day. I also feel them. Sometimes people say it's revelation. Sometimes they get this inner movement. They say, I have revelation. Others might say, my mind is telling me this thing. There is something that is not physical. It's a movement. It's a steering that is within us. We usually experience it. Sometimes we are not conscious. Other times we are not aware. But there are occasions like this often. There are occasions too we feel sad. Other occasions, we just be like, say, jiggy, bang, bang. We are happy. We are excited. We are elated. Or sometimes we are just dry. What day to do? There is no passion. You are just dry. You begin to feel disinterested about something you want to do or something you shouldn't do. Other times, you don't talk to anybody. Nobody's talking to you. You are smiling. You are smiling. Other times, you are tearing. You cry. And you try to understand why you are crying, why you are having this movement. These movements are within. They are within. And in fact, it is hard to pin down what is really the cause. There are movements within us. There are movements within us. And all through history, many spiritual gurus have tried to understand this. Some of them have written about what they feel is happening. But actually, I think St. Ignatius of Loyola did a more excellent job. He offers practical language to talk about inner movement effectively than other spiritual gurus that we have. Is it Teresa of Avila? Is it even Augustine? Is it even Francis of Assisi? All of them were struggling with this movement, and they make some recommendation. But Ignatius goes deeper than them. We started the Ignatian mode with St. Ignatius of Loyola. Practical lessons for us. Today, as we talk about Ignatian discernment, we return to St. Ignatius of Loyola. We will go back to that beginning, the beginning to discuss discernment. The spiritual training we receive as Jesuits has many goals. Essentially, it aims at producing men that are discerning, men rooted in the act of discernment. Men rooted in the act of discernment. The grace of St. Ignatius of Loyola. The grace of St. Ignatius of Loyola as reported by Geronimo Nada one of his closest companions, is this: that Ignatius has this grace to be able to see and to contemplate in all things the presence of God. Ignatius is able to see and to contemplate in all things the presence of God. One of the reasons why we begin our Ignatian month with examen is for us to be able to go back to see whether we can contemplate the presence of God in the happenings that have defined our day or a period, or in the context of today's own, a focused examen on my life in the church. My life in the church. Some of us go through the day from morning till in the night with many encounters of God, but we are not aware. We are not aware. We are confronting God, having conversations with God, but we are missing all the consciousness that is needed for that. But Ignatius has this particular grace to see, and to contemplate in all things the presence of God. Why? Because Ignatius is a man of feelings. He's a man of feelings. He's a man who is not only aware of his thinking, but is also aware of his feelings. Ignatius pays attention too much, too profoundly, in fact, too frequently on his feelings, and careful to distinguish in them what is and is not of God. What is and is not of God. There are times you are moody, and it could be from God. There are times you are moody, and it could be a sign of the evil one. At the heart of Ignatian spirituality is discernment. And so this training I'm giving is very, very important. It will be today and on Friday. And it's important that you write out something and begin to practice it. If you don't practice that, it's an exercise. If you are not exercising, you can't go and begin to fight the battle. You can't do it. You have to be practicing it. So I will be moving from step to step. Discernment defines the whole life and writings of St. Ignatius of Loyola. What makes discernment possible is a certain awareness of the movement inside of us. For Ignatius, these movements are indication of different spirits. Some of us are too quick to say that person is possessed. We don't look at this, we don't pay attention to the spirits within us. You might also be possessed by all kinds of spirits. And they are all moving inside you. Now the one when they do like this, now you say that person is possessed. But we have this movement, this spirit, and Ignatius has a unique way of understanding spirit. Even when Chima spoke about walking with the excluded, he mentioned spirit again, but in an Ignatian term, an Ignatian way. For Ignatius, these movements are indications of different spirits: the good one from God, the evil one from Satan. To be aware of this movement and to respond to them is known as the discernment of spirit. To become aware of this movement and to respond to them, is what Ignatius called the discernment of spirit. What is discernment of spirit? We'll see it in different ways. First, it's a process. of distinguishing one idea from another. So at the level of thought, at the level of ideas, to discern is to distinguish one idea from another. From the Latin word, discernere, we could see it as a means to separate things according to their qualities. Things might appear good, but one will be more qualitative than the other. Things might appear consoling, but one might be more consoling than the other. So discernment, to be able to separate things according to their qualities. Or to want to look at it from the perspective of the spirit, the phrase of spirit, discernment of spirit, refers to what is to be discerned. What is to be discerned? What is to be separated? If you are thinking about marriage and priesthood, that is two spirits for St. Ignatius. What's to be discerned? What's to be separated? That is the spiritual realities also to be distinguished. Ignatius uses spirits to indicate the kind of movement we feel from within, the stirrings in the heart, e.g., joy, sadness, hope, fear, peace, and similar feelings with their thoughts. All these are what Ignatius is calling spirit. It's different from what we will call spirit. And so there are a lot of spirit. Spirit of joy, of fear, of hope, of consolation, of desolation. And all of them are just within us. Ignatian sense of spirit. The movement we feel within us. That stirring. And every day of our lives, we have this movement within us. We have moments of joy. We have moments of sadness, maybe of hope and of fear. In most encounters that we are having, these spirits are flying here and there. And it's important to begin to pay attention to them. Because Ignatian discernment is impossible without noticing the movement of the Spirit. In summary form, therefore, this is what discernment of spirit means for St. Ignatius. One, it is a process. When they say a process, not be something where they happen at once. Not be something where the certainty is clear immediately. It is a process. You might think, you might reflect, you will ponder a bit, you will avoid some distraction. It's a process. And the process enables us to distinguish between different kinds of spiritual movements in the heart. It is also helps us to identify from this movement which of them are of God and which of them are not. And in the end, to accept the movement from God and to reject the ones from the evil one. So if you look at the process, you are distinguishing. And then you are becoming aware that these are different spirits moving inside of you. And you begin to notice that, look, these spirits are also contrary. One is from God, the other is not from God. And then the courage to accept, to make a choice, to choose the Spirit of God. So Ignatian discernment is a process which We distinguish between different kinds of spiritual movements in the heart, identifying those that are of God and those that are not, in order to accept the former and to reject the latter. Back to the life of St. Ignatius, because that is where we will be drawing these processes, this definition that I've just given. The first thing I want to mention about his life is from wounds to thoughts. From wounds to thoughts. When Imam spoke about the life of St. Ignatius, he gave us a brief history, how he was involved in a battle with the French soldiers, and how he was injured. He was wounded in a place called Pamplona. All through his life, St. Ignatius wanted fame. He wanted a certain pride of life through the military service of his time. Even today too, if your brother are soldier and wear soldier uniform, if you follow one car, will do you like say, now you get the whole world. And maybe that soldier self, maybe self now even recruit. But the fact that the person is soldier, you have a certain pride. You can even be telling someone, you know who I be, you know my brother. So St. Ignatius wanted a life like that in the military service. And in those days, he were really respected. He never wanted to settle for anything less. But there was a conversion. Conversion began when he was wounded. It began in a bed where Ignatius awaited recovery. When we are lonely, we think a lot. When we have nothing doing, some will say the idle man is the devil's workshop. Somebody who don't do anything, thinking could be kill that person. So from wounds to thoughts. Ignatius had that experience too. While he was wounded, while the leg was shattered, Ignatius was not able to do the things he was doing before. So there was loneliness, and there was a certain energy invested in thinking. Although wounded, Ignatius was healthy. He wasn't sick. The only issue was physical movement. He cannot stand, and he was confined to his bed. Then he requested for books. I can't go out to fight. I can't go out to march. And I don't want to die because of loneliness, just thinking and thinking. So he asked for books. He requested for books. He preferred ordinarily books of military conquest. Books of the pride of soldier, big soldier. He preferred that kind of books. He even preferred books that are fictional, but that will portray a certain powerful person or a military person. But only devout books were given to him. Only devout books, spiritual books. In fact, 2 books, the life of Christ and the lives of the saints. He thought about fame and thought about what he was reading. From wounds to thinking. While in the bed, he was also thinking. Thinking of big things. But now, because he was given the life of Christ and the life of the saints, he was also beginning to think about the saints. It's good here to distinguish between thoughts and thinking. Between thoughts and thinking. But first, the sermon begins with thinking. Ignatius did not choose the spiritual books. These books were given to him. Having nothing to read, he began reading them to spend his time. What we notice here, and from his words about his experiences, is a place of thought and thinking. As he read the books, he stopped to think about the things he had read. Some other times, he would think about the things of the world that he used to think about before. And he would even think of a very powerful lady. A lady that is really, really powerful, commanding everybody. And Ignatius wants to be the servant of that lady. Now, this is the difference between thoughts and thinking. Thoughts are ideas. They are images. They are concepts that arise in our minds. Now, they just pop up. These are thoughts. So thoughts are ideas. They are images. While thinking is the active process of using our minds to process the thoughts. When you begin to use the mind actively to process what is popping up, maybe you feel sadness and you just want to spend some time to think, why am I sad? Somebody cursed me. Maybe something happened. But sometimes when we are sad, we'll say, maybe bad thing will not happen to my people somewhere. That's why I'm feeling sadness. Anyhow, we will think, but it is important to reflect. So thinking is the active process of using our minds to process the thoughts. Now, having distinguished between thoughts, now step by step, we will take this thing, and it is the life of Ignatius. Great Saint Joseph, are we together?
Yes.
Make us stop small. Una do understand?
Yes.
Una do follow?
Yes.
Any confusion?
No.
Because this is very important. Discernment, so that when we begin to peel out some guides and some rules, you'll see how all this comes together. Now, Ignatius has two thoughts. A powerful lady that is always appearing in his mind. And now he's reading the life of Jesus and the life of the saints. So now he has two thoughts. As he did there, if you know the sleep, you'll be thinking about these two things. Two powerful thoughts. Holding Ignatius for a very long time. If they think about that for 2 hours, an image of a lady that he desired to serve as a soldier, to go everywhere in the company of this lady, with pride, with focus, with determination. Not for anything bad. No, he wasn't thinking of doing anything bad with this lady. Just make my Oga be woman. Oga be woman. Was thinking about it. Was not anything negative. Wasn't thinking of sleeping with the woman. Wasn't thinking of killing the woman. Wasn't thinking of using the woman for anything bad. But wanted to support a powerful woman to achieve dreams for the nation. But he was also reading the life of Christ and lives of the saints, and other thoughts were holding his heart. He will be saying to himself, what if I should do what St. Francis of Assisi did? What if I should do what St. Dominic did? He was beginning to have questions. These two had a hold on his heart. His thoughts were on two projects. Service to a lady, and then the imitation of the saints. My dear brothers and sisters in Christ, in Ignatian discernment, thinking is necessary. So much, a lot. A lot goes on in our minds. A lot goes on in our minds. And that is very important. When the nations are praying, that prayer of offering, that prayer of giving themselves completely, we say, take, O Lord, and receive all my faculty of thinking, my memory, my understanding, and my will. Thinking is so important that we don't want the devil to even steal it. So as Ignatian, we ask God to take over, to receive our thoughts. Thinking is necessary for Ignatian discernment. Our word is this: to think, not problem. Not problem. Of course, if you think, you will get white head, but it's okay. We sometimes run away from thinking, or often are unaware of our thinking. That is even the worst. Unaware of our thinking. Some people they think good, but when they finish thinking, they don't even know that they think about. Unaware of our thinking. From thinking to feeling. I mentioned that Ignatius is a man of feeling, affectivity, the man of the heart. Before you go to final bar for Society of Jesus, they will send you to tertianship. And tertianship is described as school of the heart. School of the heart. Where you begin to go through all your experiences so you can grow in feelings. When he was tired and put them aside, he found that he was dry and unhappy. He found that he was dry and unhappy. From thinking to feeling. When he was thinking about the things of the world, there's a certain delight. He can think about them for 3 hours. He's happy. Immediately after the thinking, he feels dry, empty, and unhappy. Feelings. He started paying attention to his feelings. So note, delight, dry, and unhappy. The thought was on things of the world. The feelings, delight, dry, and unhappy. It's important to be able to see how this is working, because that will be essential to your discernment process. There are some things that you'll be thinking you want to do. When you finish them, you just feel dry and unhappy. There are some that when you think about them, you are fired up. You are fired up. Let me finish this from thinking to feeling. As he was reading about the lives of the saints, he wants to make a pilgrimage to Jerusalem, because he was also reading about the life of Jesus. And he was consoled. When he put the thoughts and the book aside, he realized that there's a certain contentment and happiness that continued. So we notice in this second case that consolation, content, and happy. The thought is on the saints and pilgrimage to Jerusalem. The feelings are consolation, content, and happiness. I will stop here, because the ability to be able to distinguish how you move from your thoughts to your feelings, you'll be able to see where God is giving you direction to. I'll pick it up on Friday.